G'day watchers, welcome back to the channel. Today I have the pleasure to look at a tag. So yes, it is a tag Heuer, avant-garde since 1860. So there we go, one of the controversies of the brand already starting. Definitely the name tag wasn't in the 19th century. Okay, so let's just take out the outer box, and that's the inner box there. Just want to show you quickly the Calibre manual here, which is a kind of a specific caliber. So, you know, 3, 4, 5, 7, I think really only 5 and 7 are being used at the moment, not 3 and 4 anymore. 7 being GMT and Calibre 5 being their, you know, very well used 3-hander caliber at a 28-24 base type of thing. Okay, so let's just show you very basic setting time and date. Just basic things about the crystal. Just let you look at this and pause if you want to read it. Okay, and that's a GMT version. I'll just point out a little bit of something here. So it talks about a unidirectional turning bezel. This one, there's some mistakes here. So it keeps going on about chronograph. This is about the helium escape valve. So it talks about chronograph there, allowing helium to escape, preventing damage from the chronograph, helium trapped in the chronograph. This is definitely not a chronograph. That's probably a cut and paste from a different watch, but there we go. Okay, so that's just the caliber, and then it moves on to a different language. So not a lot of pages. You don't need a lot. In fact, most of us probably don't need to actually ever read that. Okay, so let's just show you the inner box then. So a bit of faux leather there. Tag Heuer, same thing in terms of printing, but in relief. And there we go. Okay, so just open that and show you the watch inside. All right, just some simple cushion, nothing else hidden in here. That's just how it fits in, and that's the box. Okay, there we go. That's the watch. And guys, indeed, what we have here is a Tag Heuer Aquaracer 500 in 41mm. This model is WAK2110.BA0830. Okay, all links to further details down the bottom, and purchase sites as I can find it. So this watch, as I understand it, was first available in 2012 or thereabouts. It had a relatively short run actually before being superseded by later models. The original MSRP was 2,800 USD, but of course you could get it for substantially cheaper than that. Okay, so that's really what this watch has come from, and very short run, but as you can see as I review this, it does hit quite a few sweet spots in this Aquaracer range here. Talking about the movement then, the movement in here, as you can see from the dial, there is a Calibre 5. So Calibre 5 is at a 28-24 base, or these days it can be an SW200 Solita as well, and they don't tell you which one it is. If you really want to find out, you have to open the watch, as far as I know. So stats down the left of the screen here. This one does have a quick set date implemented at the 3 o'clock window that is kind of bordered by that white rectangle, as you can see there. And the rated accuracy, as listed on the left, this one in actual use is running about +7 seconds per day, which is absolutely fine. That is very, very acceptable, at least in my book. All right, so that's the movement. Moving on to the case description then. So this case here is described as a 41mm case. Now that is the absolute minimum case diameter if you measure it from that wall there to that part there. Okay, absolute minimum. Everywhere else is actually larger than that. As you can see, there's a protuberance at that part there. Of course, the crown guards and the crown are going to make it bigger. And the bezel itself, I'll let you know, at the maximal diameter where these rider tabs are, is actually just above 42mm. If you do measure it at the minimum distance that you can find on the bezel, it is actually also 41. But looking at this bezel shape, as you can see, it's polygonal. All right, there's going to be a variable diameter on that bezel there. All right, now this case, 41mm, 316L steel, 12.3mm stick, so very pleasingly thin actually for an automatic diver, one of the thinnest that I have featured. 20mm lug width there, and the lug to lug distance between my thumbs of a very standard 48 millimeters. The overall weight of this watch is 154 grams with a couple of links removed, which is, you know, very, very nice actually. It's kind of in a kind of a sweet spot in terms of weight level there. Okay, talking about the finishing of this watch then. Okay, on the top of the lugs you can see longitudinal brushing. Okay, that's what's on the top of the lugs. The side transitions to polished, as are the bottom of the lug surfaces there as polished. The case back actually has circular brushing around the side there, and at the middle there, of course, you can see a very nice stamped dive helm there in relief. Which is something, a bit of a trademark of this Aquaracer range there. As you can see, it is a screw down case back there, of course, for this range, and a screw down sign crown. So let's just show you the signage on the crown there. The water resistant rating of this watch is actually a very, very solid 500 meters. And because of that, it does also have this valve. This is an automatic helium escape valve at the 10 o'clock position here. So you don't have to screw it, and you can't. It actually works in an automatic fashion. That's what it is described as. Okay, so that's this case description. Now let's just move on to talk about the dial here. So the dial here is a pretty nice matte horizontal decking pattern on this dial here. It does have printed words and a kind of separate surface for that printed chapter ring. It does, however, have applied indices all the way around. So it does look like applied steel indices filled with superluminova, and it does have this kind of polished hands. Are they baton or are they kind of sword? If you look closely, it does widen towards the periphery. So I'm going to call it a kind of a modified sword hand here, and it's got an arrowhead for the seconds hand. Lume on all the usual spots, and of course I'll put a lume shot right here for you guys to see how it looks like in the dark. Surrounding that dial here is a 120 click unidirectional polygonal dive style bezel, so very soft, right? Not loud, but you know, firm, minimal backplay, very, very little black backplay, I gotta say, in this, right? So that's really what it is. And it does have a ceramic loomed insert. And just to let you know, this polygonal bezel, hopefully you can see, as I pointed out here, it is actually a 12-sided shape here. So I guess the decahedron is what you would call that, or the decagon maybe, the word for a 12-sided polygon here. On top of the dial, a flat sapphire crystal. Okay, so that's what it is on the top there. Alright guys, so let's just move on to the bracelet then. Brushed, longitudinal brushing on the top surface here, transitioning to polished sides, which is, you know, fairly typical for a, you know, 3-piece per link bracelet like this. It does have solid end links, okay, but in this case it actually is push pin adjustment. It doesn't have any screw links here. Right, the clasp, let's just show you, is unfortunately a pressed metal. So look at that housing there, it's pressed metal. It does have fairly solid arms there, right? The deployant arms are fairly solid, but pressed metal clasp, and then the dive extension, which is pretty shocking. This is very shoddy, I think, in my opinion. Probably the worst part of the watch is this cheap looking dive extension. Okay, so there we go. That's the description of the watch. Let's just snap it on quickly for a wrist shot here, and it does, you know, sit very nicely. I think, remember, 48mm height here, so it fits my hand and probably in the most hands and wrists of many men without any major issues here. Okay, and look at how it, you know, fairly thin bracelet here because it's not screw link. It's fairly thin, so it actually has a pretty nice low profile, you know, this particular dive watch from TAG Heuer. Now, what have I really enjoyed about this? I think it's a pretty darn nice everyday watch. And Samuel, you know, shout out really to my mate Samuel who lent me this watch. He kind of wanted to purchase this watch for an everyday watch. And I got to say, I'm agreeing with him. I think this is a very nice everyday watch, and you know, I might be tempted not to return this watch to Sam, but you know, of course I will. It is very comfortable. It is as thin as dive watches go, almost. Practical because of the, you know, it's not too heavy, it's not too fat, it's not too large, and it's relatively quiet. You know, it's not a lot of decoration and noise going on here as compared with the current models, which are mostly, or a lot of them are 43mm, and a lot of them have splashes of color on the dial. You know, it's quite different, the current Aquaracer model. So this one is definitely more quiet. And gotta say, it's got nice added features, right? Of course, it's got sapphire and ceramic for the TAG Heuer Aquaracers of this day. It does have that talking point helium valve, given that it's a 500-meter watch. That ring of steel around the glass is also a nice thing. Now, just to note that as you turn the bezel, that steel ring around the glass there doesn't turn. So that really reminds me of Omega Planet Oceans. Okay, that's really what it reminds me of, you know, that nice little ring there. Apart from that, it's also got that nice decking pattern on the dial. It's got the dive helm, you know, relief on the back. Nice features here, and it's quite possibly, therefore, the most balanced Aquaracer ever. You know, it is, as far as I'm aware, it's versatile, yet it also has a 500-meter as opposed to the 300 meters of almost all models that you will buy today. Okay, what are the weaknesses that I will note? I think there are apparent shortcuts. Okay, that's the problem about some of the TAG Heuers. It's got push pins. It's got this, you know, kind of like pressed metal housing for the clasp, and it's got that very shocking dive extension. It's really inexcusable, right? I think that's really the worst parts of it. And I think it's not the best looking handset. I probably would prefer just simple baton. You know, let me know what you think about this kind of modified type of sword. Something just doesn't quite sit right to me, but that's maybe just a subjective thing for me. So guys, there we go. That is my review of this TAG Heuer Aquaracer 500-meter 41mm watch. Let me know your thoughts, particularly if you own anything from this range or this brand, or in fact, if you own watches of this era, this 500-meter era. Guys, if you enjoy my videos, do consider subscribing. New content every week, always aiming to be objective and unbiased about all things horology. Thank you again for sticking with me, and as always, I'll catch you guys next time.